Welcome to this week's Blockchain Gaming News Roundup with me, Jenny Jordan, and my co-host, John Jordan. Hi, John. Apptokens are inevitable. I like it. Good.
Hat. Yes, new year, new hat. We'll discuss that maybe a bit later.
Interesting, really, because I got the impression when when they sort of unveiled the idea that you were a bit skeptical. Oh, who's going to adopt this? Is this really, something developers are going to take to, and so on. But over just a matter of a few weeks, seems you have come around to really see them as inevitable and completely necessary to sort of see the industry go forward in a sustainable way. Anyway, today's Friday, 7th of February, and let's kick off with some AI agents news, because that seems to be, what's basically dominating the fairly quiet news landscape at the moment. So we're starting with Planet Mojo. They revealed a bit more about their worldwide agents platform and its initial game, Worldwide Poker, which is played between these sort of AI agents. Now, they sort of revealed more about how people are going to be able to earn through this, and they call it like a dual reward system, where basically there'll be a human's side of it, humans earning Mojo tokens, but then there'll also be the integration of AI agents where they are able to earn the WWA token. So tell us a bit more, John.
Yeah, it's actually quite an elegant system, I think, actually. We'll talk about a couple of other projects, as you say, sort of AI agents earning stuff is the current meta for AI agents. And obviously for games that sort of makes sense. And that's a way in which games sort of have an advantage over just normal AI agents who, what do they actually do? Well, they go on Twitter and tweet. But with games, with tokens, you can sort of integrate them quite quickly. And obviously game devs have always been working with AI in some ways, some elements. So in terms of what Planet Mojo is doing, it has this thing called Worldwide Agents, and it's been sort of highlighting for a while this Agents of Poker, which is different AI agents playing poker against each other. So in the initial sort of thing they showed, it was their own agent called Emma, which is, I think, created via virtuals, and then they had let's have a think. They had a Pudgy Penguin. I don't know how that was being driven in terms of the AI side of it. They had Brooker, who's the big bear from their Mojo Melee game, and they had Game, we never know how to say, Game 3's Lobby or whatever their AI agent's called. He was in there as well, and that seems sort of quite interesting. There was someone else as well who I'm forgetting. I think it was Eliza.
They have their own. What's he called? The big muscly guy.
Oh, and Winston, but he's not been shown yet playing poker.
Oh, is it not? Okay.
No, he's not been shown playing poker. No. So they had those ones, and that was interesting. They did some podcast stuff as well, and that was sort of a bit less interesting. But now I think a lot of projects, the sort of one of the issue can be you want to go into AI agent stuff, and when you create an agent through virtuals, it has its own token. But for some projects, that's difficult because they already have an existing token. So Mojo, Planet Mojo has its Mojo token that's been out for a while. It has nothing to do with AI, but they want to make it sort of part of their AI structure going forward. So they had to sort of think, I think, they had to think more carefully than someone just launching a new token, because they have this new token, WWA token on base, but they have also the Mojo token, which is also on base, was originally on Polygon. So they've come up with a way of sort of balancing these two things. So in the game, which will be the initial one will be Agents of Poker, but I guess other games will come along. We as human players can play poker. I mean, I'm terrible at it, but we can play, and we use the Mojo token, so the existing sort of ecosystem token that they've got, and we sort of use that to buy in to games. We can stake that for, I think, for sort of energy or stuff like that. But that's what we do. We play with the Mojo token, and we end up on a leaderboard. And obviously, it's a typical rewards-based leaderboard. Whoever's higher up on the leaderboard gets better rewards. Obviously, we don't really know quite what those rewards are. Probably Mojo, I would think, but maybe other things as well. But we also...
I did say we earn world points.
Well, I'm coming on to that. So... Yeah, but the world points are what you get to rank on the leaderboard. I'm saying what are the rewards of being on the leaderboard. But anyway, and we also earn, as human players, we also earn Agent XP, and that Agent XP we sort of stake on the agents who are also playing amongst themselves and also maybe with us. And if I have a virtuals agent, I can plug that in to this overall ecosystem, and then I can obviously sort of stake that my one's going to be the best. So you have humans playing and on a leaderboard, and agents playing and on a leaderboard, and humans winning from their activity as being skilled poker players. But then you could be like I suppose a bad poker player, but stake into the AI agent who's really good, and then you get a share of their winnings. There's also like a boost system as well. So we've not seen it actually working yet. So that's we're only sort of judging it on how they explained it to work. But that seems to me like it's sort of a nice way of balancing these two tokens, and a nice way of sort of balancing human skill and agents. And obviously, the interesting thing will be, will the majority of the action be on the human side? Probably not, I would think, but the majority of the action will probably end up on the agent side. But people will have to sort of play to get the XP to boost the agents, and that's how you get a share of the agents. And the agents, as you say, are using this other token, WWA token. So you have a balancing of the tokens as well. So I'm not saying it's going to work in terms of tokenomics or any this sort of stuff. We know, as we'll probably discuss later on, how this sort of speculation is much more powerful than utility at the moment. But it's thematically or from a game design point of view, it's quite a nice way of doing it. And we'll just I think they are going live fairly soon in the next sort of couple of weeks.
Maybe think of kind of horse racing where people invest in horses that they are sort of that they are predicting is going to come out on top, sort of thing. That AI agents are going to be that sort of thing. They sit there and have a game of poker, a bit like a horse race, and then whichever AI agent.
I guess I don't know enough about the granularity of how good. I'm sure it's relatively easy to train AI agents to play poker, but obviously the point of poker is it has these. It's not just it's not chess, or it's not it's not a sort of a pure game of skill. It's a game of sort of there is chance obviously in the cards, and then there's the whole bluffing stuff. So it will be interesting to see. I don't know these. How do you train an AI agent to be good at poker? Are all AI agents better at poker than me? Probably, but how will they play against each other? And I guess the other thing is it will be the if it works well, it will work because there'll be a sort of a spectator type excitement in. This is there's $1 million worth of make it up. There's $1 million worth of tokens on the table, and these AI agents are playing each other, and they do sort of trash talk each other and stuff, and maybe one of them just hallucinates and sort of blows up, and there will be that sort of I think if it works, it needs to have that sort of like spectator thing element. Then it's fun.
One of the interesting things about sort of say sports or competition is that human element, where there is always an element of unpredictability when humans are involved, because someone can just mentally sort of break down, someone can just like run out of steam, unpredictably, because they didn't fuel up in the right way in the morning, or they have a bit of a tummy bug or whatever, you watch a triathlon or so. Which with AI agents, you don't really have that. So it might just end up being like super boring and no one watches it.
Well, even at the top end, these agents do hallucinate. They do hallucinate. So they, there is. That's the sort of bug, not a feature. But I think equally because there is this sort of you're bluffing and you're raising, and poker just has that inherently, which is why poker has proven to be such a successful sort of the world series of poker. People love to watch, and people commentate on what cards they've got. People just love that sort of stuff. I know it's obviously not so. Won't be so strong for AI agents, but you can see it's something a little bit different. So I'm quite looking forward to it, and I don't play poker, so I'm not going to do well at that side of it.
Yeah, good. And this week, Mighty Bear Games also launched their GOAT gaming NFTs, AlphaGOATs. No, NFTs, sorry.
Yes.
NFT AI agents, AlphaGOATs, that's right, isn't it? And so these are also sort of able to play and earn within the Telegram-based game platform, GOAT Gaming. And there is Was that last week, they announced the funding round, or was that this
funding
week?
was last week, yeah.
Funding was last week. But clearly, I mean, this is something people believe in. They raised 4 million, they announced last week for this project. So, and I mean, with this AI raising an awful lot of money at the moment.
Yeah.
Now, this is kind of criticized from the sense that do we want AI agents to play games for us? What's the point then of games? Games is sort of a way of escaping reality for our minds, and if AI agents do it for us, what's the point, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So but you've been getting one of those agents.
Yeah. So the AlphaGOAT AI agents. There isn't, as far as I know, there's not a lot of visibility about how they will earn, but they were Mighty Bear Games. I think they were the first one that I saw, at least, to sort of elucidate that these AI agents would earn you sort of in-game currency, tokens, whatever. So, I'm not very clear on actively how they do that. They say about playing games, and I think they've sort of mentioned about sort of UGC and stuff like that. But the other thing is each one of these NFTs comes with 350,000 of their GG tokens. So the GG token is the token for the GOAT gaming sort of ecosystem. Obviously, the token's not live, so we have no idea what 350,000 GG tokens means in terms of money. They basically, when the thing goes live, everyone who has one of these NFTs, there's a month where nothing happens. Then after the first month, you get a linear distribution over the next 6 months. So 350,000 GG tokens divided by 6, you get that every month. So I don't know. I assume the earning side is on top of that, but it could be the earning side is just they have these tokens inbuilt into them. But there's not been a lot of visibility on that. And I say
presumably you earn more the more you play, and the more successful you are in the game, or the more
you would think
successful
so.
AI agent is in the game.
Yeah. So the NFT sale started on the 4th of February for whitelist. I don't think that was massive. I think it was about 1,500, and that was priced at it was 0.1 ETH effectively. So depending, the price of ETH went down this week. So anyway, it's about $250. And then they have various tiers. So I think they're still selling. They're not sold out. And I think it ends up, the final tier is $750 or something. So it's quite a lot for something. So I would be, I can't remember what the total supply is. I'd be surprised if they sell out, to be honest. Because just the sort of, crypto at the moment, prices are down sort of quite a lot for various sort of reasons. And the AI tokens in particular have been sort of absolutely smashed. So I think that, like these sort of bubbles, the AI agents, AI is clearly a big thing in society at the moment. AI agents in crypto were a big thing for about 6 weeks, but a lot of that's fallen away. So they sort of, they've been a bit unfortunate in terms of timing. If they'd been 2 weeks earlier, they would have done probably okay, but we'll see.
Simon Davis is hopeful and optimistic as usual on Twitter, saying this is the ultimate time because things are down now. So this is buy in now,
Yeah.
Great return when it goes up again. Good. We've had Faraway Games reveal a bit more about the Rift platform and F-Chain. So basically the AI agents there, this is like a feature where they can wager in, I'm not exactly sure, so you go through the details please for us.
I have to say I'm not exactly sure either. So it's something on Twitter. So they announced this thing called the Rift platform, and this is again like an AI agent platform where you can plug in your virtuals agent or agents from other platforms, and then you can add different modules to them, or you basically buy those modules that give them extra functionality. And developers can also build modules. So the modules are NFTs as well. So they're trying to sort of build this ecosystem around making AI agents more interesting. And then as sort of part of that, one of the modules is called Rift Arena. And that's where AI agents, obviously everyone's taking the same sort of playbook. So it's a little bit like what Planet Mojo is doing. Is in the AI agents are basically they're playing like a 2D beat 'em up game, Street Fighter type thing. But the agents sort of put tokens in, so they're effectively. I think it's the agents are actually wagering on themselves. I don't think humans are wagering on the agents, but I mean, obviously that could be added, I suppose.
No, that's the whole point, isn't it? That you've sort of upgraded them with these modules, so they are able to do it themselves.
Yeah. So again, this is, everyone's sort of doing the same things in the context of whatever their sort of their platform is, and with this whole Rift stuff, it's all from Faraway Games. It's all running on their F chain, so they have their own infrastructure. Running on it. I'm not quite sure when this stuff's sort of actually going live. And they have their Rift token, and the Rift token is actually is sort of the underpins the F chain as well, and all this sort of. No, there's an F token as well, isn't there? It's all a lot of tokens flowing around. As I say, sort of people sort of want to, I think, sort of separate tokens for different sort of parts of the business, but also you want them sort of interlinking. So we'll see. I mean, I think obviously, as with all these sort of things, there's a technical side of can you get it to work, and then there's the product side of does anyone sort of care. So obviously AA agents there and working, to some degree, but are the watching AA agents play beat 'em ups or playing poker, do we care? And certainly if the token prices go down, do we care? So that's a big sort of question mark over the whole thing. But yeah, I think it's fascinating from a technical point of view, from a technology point of view, how all this sort of stuff is.
I'm going to come back to talk more about tokens.
Yeah.
Sort of take on that, and whether, basically the whole point of tokens is just to saturate with them and actually draining the sort of exactly.
Yeah.
But, let's talk a bit about Mythical Games first, and your great interview you had with CEO John Linden about kind of all of their games really coming out and other games too. But let's start off with NFL Rivals. What I thought your sort of big takeaways from that. I think it's interesting that they're now generating 65% of their revenue is from trading, NFT trading in the marketplace. Talk us a bit. Talk us through, please.
Yes, so it was a good interview, partly because I've known John for a long time and spoke to him third time on the podcast, and he's very good at answering questions, and I've spent quite a lot of time in the Mythical universe, so I sort of know that, quite well, so everything sort of lines up there. And he is a good public face of a company. He's a good CEO. I don't know, obviously within the company how he acts. I imagine very professionally. He's an experienced games guy, but he's very good at sort of being a figurehead and explaining stuff. And not all CEOs in blockchain games sort of are that. As always, I like the guy. So you have to be a little bit careful and sort of filtering. Obviously, he's going to say things which he believes are going to happen or hopes is going to happen, and maybe you have to filter a little bit if that's going to happen. But NFL Rivals, he was honest about this, and it sort of chimed to maybe some of the stuff we'd been seeing. So it's into its sort of second year now. So obviously the Super Bowl is happening this weekend. So for American football game, that's sort of the peak sort of market for a American football game. So they've got a whole bunch of stuff happening for that. And John's what is he? He's a Kansas City Chief, a big Kansas City Chief fan. He was born in Kansas, so it's big. He's loved all the Kansas City Chiefs' rise to fame, and he loves American football. So he's at the Super Bowl obviously this weekend. But he did say the second year. So this year, the first year they had to get it live, and that's you're building a lot of stuff and seeing what works. So the second year was harder than they thought. We'd only mark them like a B-, and partly he said it. There's an issue with your real hardcore players in the game who just want more stuff, and then you're always bringing new players, and you get sort of a divide between. And even from us, I think, who've played the game, quite a lot, the game's starting to get quite complicated with all these different sort of currencies and things going on there. It's quite complicated to not to play the game itself, but to the meta stuff around it got quite complicated, I think. And he also said, normally if you're doing a sports game, at the end of the season, you sort of wipe all the players and all the teams, and you reset them for the start of the next season when they have new lineups. Obviously, players are being traded and all this sort of stuff. So that's normally what you would do in a sports game. In a game with NFTs, you obviously can't take away those NFTs. So there's NFTs exist for as long as the game exists. And if they're on a blockchain that exists forever, the games are on there. There's NFTs are on there forever. So that's sort of a bit of a game design challenge, because you don't want to nerf at the end of the season. You don't want to nerf all the cards. If you spent $1,000 buying some top end quarterback card, that still has to have some value in the new season. You can't just nerf it. But equally, you're creating a new bunch of cards because that player may have transferred clubs, or there's new players coming in all the time, and so it's getting the balance of the game design and the sort of economic value of these cards season over season. He said that they found that quite difficult. He thinks they sort of solved it now, and so as a good CEO would say, he says the third year is going to be amazing. We're really going to sort of go for it. But he did say, the official figure they've given was like 6 million downloads from the app stores, because this game, obviously, mobile game through the app stores. And that number hasn't really changed. They said they're about 6.5 million. They've not really been marketing that game this year. So coming back to your point that now 65% of their revenue comes from NFT trading in the game, rather than it was originally 20%, with 80% coming from in-app purchases. I think partly that number has increased because they're not funneling so many people into the game. And as you get further into the game, you're probably doing less in-app purchases and you're doing more NFT trading. So I think their revenue has probably gone down. So there is a slight other side to that good stat of 65%, but it still is an impressive stat. And he says, and I don't think this was public, that they call it re-upped. He's re-upped the agreement with the NFL. So he really likes NFL. And so that's, I assume, I don't know how many years they did it for originally, but that's going to be, another 5 years or so. And he says, Madden is the big American football game, it's a mobile game and a mainly console PC game. He says that does about 26 million. He says the audience, that's 26 million. So, he thinks they've done quite well to get 6 million for their mobile game, but he sees a lot of upside there. But clearly the bigger game for them is the FIFA Rivals game, the soccer game they're putting out in the summer. Again, he didn't say specifically, but that's pretty much a 10-year deal. He said that'll be a couple of World Cups. Obviously, the next World Cup is in America, 2028. Is that right? Yeah. So, and that's taken sort of their learnings from the NFL game. It's not the same game. They changed it. It's a bit more sort of arcadey, arcadey real-time strategy game. So it'll be interesting how that sort of plays out. But that's he said the FIFA at its peak, the FIFA mobile game had 500 million downloads and 80 million monthly players during a World Cup. So that's just it's like an order of magnitude, just 2 orders of magnitude bigger than American football. So he's sort of bullish on NFL because he's an American. He loves American football, his game. But from a sort of business point of view, the soccer game is the one that he sort of sees the sort of explosive growth happening in. So yeah,
I'm really looking forward to the PvP, and hopefully sort of, because all of us, excuse me, family have played NFL Rivals to some extent.
Yeah.
But obviously it'd be really nice if you could play against each other, and that's what he's been emphasizing with FIFA Rivals, isn't it? And then that younger ones really like to sort of collect the right footballers and stuff. Yep. So really quite exciting. And then obviously there are the other games. They are onboarding to the Mythos chain that are from third-party developers. So he took us a little bit through about that vision that they're having and where that's heading.
I mean, also, we shouldn't forget Pudgy Party. So Pudgy Party is the sort of Fall Guys, Stumble Guys inspired sort of party game using the Pudgy Penguins brand. Obviously, that's a deal, it's a licensing deal with Pudgy Penguins. Again, mobile, and I think, did he say PC, I think, as well? I can't remember.
Console.
No, console, yeah. So he didn't say that, but he sort of said that. And the interesting thing was I was a bit dismissive about Pudgy Penguins in general. I mean, I have owned one in the past. I don't own one now. But John was good at talking about Luca Netz, who's the Nets, Pets, isn't it? Luca Netz, who's the sort of visionary CEO behind Pudgy Penguins. And say again?
Isn't it? No. Not Pets.
What is it?
Nets.
It is Nets, is it? Okay.
I mean, I think the official is Schnetzler, but he calls himself Nets, doesn't he?
Anyway, Luca, the CEO of Igloo, and it just happened, I actually heard a podcast with him actually this week. So that was sort of interesting. And he's clearly a very smart marketing guy. He's quite young, he's in his 20s. and he's sort of resurrected Pudgy Penguins. He's obviously got them into Walmart with their plushies. That was very successful. And he's actually, I mean, nothing to do with games really. He was interesting. He was saying they really focus on gifts. So they have a marketing team who just spend all day pumping out Pudgy Penguin gifts. And he says it's basically really cheap. You get billions of impressions. I can't remember what number, but it's billions and billions of impressions that they get with these Pudgy Penguins, and they're sort of, you get them, people are using them as reaction gifts in sort of, social media and all this sort of stuff. He's a very smart sort of marketing guy. So he's very much of the sort of idea that, Pudgy Penguins, and John said it to me, and then I heard him say it in this other podcast that he wants that. He says, my goal for that game is it's the number one downloaded mobile game in every in all categories, free to play mobile game. And it's interesting that obviously they have sold a lot of these Pudgy Penguin plushies. The NFTs are still the number one NFT, apart from CryptoPunks and Bored Apes. They're the sort of the 10 ETH sort of standard. And they do have, and it's very focused on the community, the huddle as they call it. So it will be interesting. I don't think the game will be exciting in terms of people know how those social mini sort of game things work, and obviously Blankos, which we won't really talk about at the moment, is it was sort of inspired by those things as well. So Mythical have built those sort of games before, so that'll be interesting. And actually, sort of, it's not a game I would particularly sort of vibe with, I don't think. But I sort of like sort of indexed that up in my head a little bit, having heard John talk about it and then heard this Luca guy. And obviously, they've all got they've launched their abstract blockchain as well. They've got a whole bunch of other stuff going on. So it also maybe feeds into it a little bit. But in terms of the third,
if one game is gonna go a bit more mainstream this year, that is probably that and FIFA Rivals. You'd say quite a lot is on the line for Mythical Games in that sense that they're talking up that sort of mainstream adoption of blockchains.
And to give an idea of this, and this is where I say you sometimes have to filter a little bit, is John said, so at the moment they have every person who plays a Mythical game basically has a wallet created in the background for them. So the Mythos chain is a Polygon parachain, but you don't know it's a blockchain. You just play the game, you don't know it's a blockchain. It doesn't ask you to put in a username. It just sort of creates something for you in the background. So given the scale of what he wants to do, and those two games in particular, John said that, he expects, he said it in a slightly weird way. He said in the next 6 quarters, which is the next 18 months to the rest of us, but in the next 6 quarters, he expects the Mythos chain to have 100 million wallets. So that is a big jump. I guess when we talk about gaming chains, Immutable are talking about, we're going to hit 5 million wallets, this month. And Ronin, I can't remember what Ronin is, but, I don't think it's 100 million. So that would be quite a, in that case, it's over 18 months. So we're talking, sort of 20, sort of Q3 in 2026. So that's, in blockchain terms, that's like, that's eternity. But if you're CEO of that sort of company, raising money and building these sort of things and doing deals with, big companies, that's the sort of roadmap you have. And I guess just from the point of view of, as we say, FIFA Mobile had 500 million downloads at its peak. Then 100 million is doesn't seem ridiculous. And I guess what's interesting here is I don't think many other blockchain games companies, a lot of them may talk this nonsense. We're going to onboard the next billion to Web3. That's gone away a little bit now because they can't onboard, 250, most of them. But someone like John, who has worked for Activision Blizzard, worked on Call of Duty games, knows what mass market gaming needs to be quality-wise, knows about it's been in blockchain for as long as I have. You can see I think there are a handful of companies who sort of can, when they say something like that, you have to sort of take it on a bit of trust, obviously, a bit of skepticism, but you go, well, at least I can understand you have the experience and the funding and the games for that to be a realistic ambition, And I think it's interesting to say, it's like, not to bash on them all the time, but Immutable with their 5 million, they don't talk about we're going to, in 2026 we're going to have 100 million. There's not, people don't say that. The Ronin people don't say that. So it's interesting that he does say that. And I don't, I think, as I say, there may be some hyperbole in that, but I think there is a sort of at least a grain of truth. So
It's interesting you're mentioning Immutable and Ronin in this because
Yeah.
I've very much seen sort of a shift here with Ronin obviously moving towards being open and permissionless now. A year ago, they were very much sort of, we are the chain for a few, but really high quality games. And they were a little bit dismissive of sort of Immutable's marketing strategy of having the most games. Immutable has always sort of been, we're about quantity, like over 300 games now, 400 games now. I think they're up to over 500 games. It's this promise of so and so. And now Ronin has obviously moved a little bit more towards that kind of strategy with, we got 35 live games, but there'll be 300 games in, at least their investors are sort of talking in that kind of, in those sort of terms. And now listening to John Linden saying kind of, we want to be the chain for a few, but really high quality games. So Mythos, it has onboard, what did you say, signed 4 games, I think,
Yes.
this year. And obviously their own games as well with, the Pudgy Party, like you said, Blancos, FIFA Rivals, NFL Rivals, Micronation.
Yeah. Well,
that's going to be sort of a 10 games or so on Mythos, probably towards before the end of the year.
But just going back to your original question, actually, that you asked me, and then I spewed off in a different direction. So in terms of Nitro Nation, it is, and he does point this out in the interview a little bit forcefully, that they're not developing that game. So that's from a third-party developer called CM Games. And they've gone through a bit of sort of trouble in the last year, so that game's been a little bit sort of delayed. But he says, that they wanted this year to sign up sort of 4 to 6 games that are being developed. They're sort of published by Mythical, I suppose, or be on the Mythos chain, but they won't be developed or funded by them. And he said we've actually signed 4 this month. So and he, again, interestingly, he said, those are experienced game developers. He said there's some really interesting stuff with sort of crypto developers, and we've sort of we've seen that, and like I guess something like Pixels would be a sort of prime example of a scrappy startup that just gets on and does it, and just is successful doing that, but is taking a different route. He says that's not what we're doing, and none of sometimes some of my criticisms of Mythical over the years is they've been like a step removed from everyone else. They were sort of running on their own sort of blockchain. It was originally based on the EOS blockchain way back in the day, and they did a bridge to Ethereum, so you could bridge it, but they weren't part of the Ethereum crypto blockchain experience. But that's now sort of proven to be correct, that they've come up with something that is and John, even from when I knew him, we didn't quite have arguments, but I was always a bit more like, blockchain's a revolution. It's going to revolutionize the games industry. And he was like, no, it's not. It's an evolution. It's going to, it's going to evolve the games industry. And obviously, you'd say at the moment he's winning because we've had 6 years of scrappy crypto startups doing wacky stuff, and we've not really onboarded more than a couple of million. Probably, you'd say everyone could add up all these wallets and come up to a different number, but I would say a maximum of a million people in the world have played or have some ongoing interest in blockchain games, crypto games, and it's going to be, I don't think now you're going to get that to, it's going to be very hard to get that to 10 million even, it's that thing has not worked. And John's evolutionary approach, where they don't know they're playing a blockchain game. You play NFL Rivals, it doesn't mention it at all. It doesn't mention NFTs, but you can basically can sell an NFT in the marketplace and cash it out through their sort of provider and get and buy your Starbucks with it on your debit card. That function, that financial plumbing is already live and has been live for a couple of years for them. So I would say, as much as my heart is sort of more within the fun, scrappy, let's do some AI agents playing poker sort of side of it, that's not winning in terms of mass market. And mass market isn't everything. There's some, there's going to be some very profitable niche blockchain games. That's fine, and that's actually more interesting for us, I suppose, the fully on-chain stuff. But in terms of onboarding mass market stuff, is they're definitely.
Well, just to take a very real example we were talking about last night, I've not really bothered about kind of the NFT side of things. I am intellectually curious about it, but I don't go out to play games just to earn NFTs, and so it's like obviously some players do rightly, But I I started playing NFL Rivals when it was in soft launch, and I've kept sort of regularly. I go in and out a little bit. I don't play every day, but I have bought, I think, a total of 3 players NFTs in the game, but I now have like a full squad of NFTs just through earning, blueprints, systems, and so it's added up. If I were to go out and sell now, I would have probably 10x my money, which is to say it's a lot, maybe $20 or something, but it's something, and that's just come without me in any way actively trying to get there, and so that's just a sort of a bonus on top of playing a really enjoyable game. You get that.
And this brilliantly brings me back to one of John's main points, which I think is again, he always brought this up very early on, it comes back to actually having a step away from the crypto side of things. He says, I think the thing people get wrong about blockchain games, Web3 games, is it's about profit. He says that is an element for some people, the sort of the degens, and you can make really good money out of doing that and social farming and jumping onto the latest thing. He goes, but I think, and his visions for them at Mythical is, I think Web3 gaming is mainly about digital identity and owning stuff. And I think that's where he's correct, in the sense that, you could have you could own $20 or maybe it's $30 or whatever of stuff, but that doesn't really matter to you. You could cash it all out and buy a coffee or something. And maybe if you sort of if one of your cards got really expensive, you may do that. But in general, those are just assets you use to play the game. If you're into American football, you might really be, I got this, linebacker or tight head or whatever funny positions they have, and it may be it's your home team or maybe just whatever, and you just like the fact that it's worth $2 or $25 doesn't really matter to you. You like the fact that you have that on the team, and I think obviously as we spend more and more time online, then that just happens, and particularly in games, because in games you have characters and inventories and all that sort of stuff. So it just makes sense that would have some sort of nominal value on a blockchain. I mean, that seems sort of clear to me. But it's sort of splitting up this. There are parts of it that could be about profit, and even on NFL Rivals, if you look at the data, there are people who just trade NFTs. They play the game, they level them up, they know what NFTs are in demand, and they focus on doing that. And you can see that they're selling, tens of thousands of NFTs, a month. I don't think they're making. I mean, you could maybe not at the scale to make a living off that, but probably, there are people who will trade those sort of things, and they're providing obviously liquidity into the market and stuff. But the vast majority of people are just like you. They're playing, they're fusing blueprints to create an NFT. If you keep going and you end up with 20 NFTs, and obviously some of them you go, well, I don't need these, I just sell them off. And Mythical is good. They have this thing called quick trade, so you can bundle up stuff you don't need and just sell it or swap it for a higher. So you could take 10 $1 NFTs that you can't even sell on the marketplace because there's so many of them, and then swap that. You basically sell those to Mythical, and then you get the value to buy a $10 NFT that is going to improve your game. So they're really it's all sort of aligned for their vision of what's going on there.
Yeah, and it's very clever. If I got a right back NFT already that I'm really attached to, and I earn a right back NFT through the game, then obviously that encourages me to go out and sell that one and get a better left back or something, whatever.
Yep.
So but I'm really looking forward to FIFA Rivals. But that leads us on to the next game we went to. So it's Soccerverse, which is a fully on-chain MMO, UK-based studio Soccerverse. So this is sort of, I want to bring this up just because I've seen this week on X, and sort of recently actually in 2025, with the hopes of that being sort of providing a new spark in the industry, and that's not really come. People are a bit disillusioned, or there aren't any great games out there, Web3 games you can play right now. But here's one actually that you can play, and that is absolutely fantastic. I know you've been playing it since it launched about a month ago now, 9th of January I think it launched. But I've only just got into it this week. So yeah, talk us through Soccerverse, how it's going, and you're an advisor as well, which is
Yeah.
just sort of mention that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, I've been advising the team since 2018. So I've been playing various betas for lots of years. But as you say, it is sort of fascinating. They're a very small team, very sort of passionate, very into the crypto side of things, and you're starting to see some interesting behaviour on these things. So basically, there's sort of two sort of parts of the game. So one part of it is a football management game. So you can be a manager of a team, and teams normally play twice a week, and you set the tactics. And that's I'm not big into football management games at all. But you basically you choose your team, you choose your formation, you choose what players you want to be in that formation. You can choose sort of things like, are they going to go far? Are they going to sort of have fast pace, or are they going to have slow pace? They're going to have hard tackling or slow tackling. You can set up scenarios. So if you're winning with 85 minutes to go, you can go defensive, or you can bring on some substitutes or change formation, or it has all that sort of stuff that Football Manager people like. And then obviously, you sort of rank on the table, on the league table. And it's Soccerverse, so pretty much it's not quite the entire world, but I can't remember how many teams there are. It's about over 3,000 different teams in all the sort of all places to play football. And so there's that sort of part of it, which is sort of exciting. And managers, one of the sort of the key things when you get into it a little bit more is transfers. So you transfer players between clubs. You can put players on the transfer market. You can bid against other managers who want to buy other players, and no one has exactly the team they want. So you might, as you say, you might have 6 left backs and only 1 right back. So you want to swap those out. So, but you're doing this in a sort of shared, persistent world where there's only one Messi, or there's only one whatever player there is in the world. There's only one of them, and they can only be in one team. So there's that sort of bidding war sort of happening, and okay, you're going to be agents of players as well, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But also there's an in-game economy. So as the manager of a club, you'll get paid something, and as the owner of what's called influence in clubs and players, you also get a bit of their. So if you own 10% of a club, you get 10% of the money that they make, because it's an economy. So on a match day, you get TV money, and if you're playing at home, you get ticket money, but you're also paying out wages to your players. So when you buy someone, you sort of have to work out how long's the contract, how much you're paying them. So there's the financial aspect of keeping the club afloat and healthy, as well as sort of obviously you do better in the leagues, you get more money, you get promoted, you get more money. So it's quite sort of fascinating how it's all sort of linked together, and they have their in-game token, which is what you get paid in as a player, and what the club has as a financial entity. And then there's also the element for people who don't want to be a manager of a soccer team. You can just buy influencing clubs and players, and sort of It's not. I mean, it has play to earn elements, but it's not because it's such a slow pace. It's 6 months for a season for promotion and demotion, and every 6 months the player's rating changes as well. So one of the sort of key things, and it tends to be the case with every football management game, is what you're looking for is who are the hot, maybe not 16-year-olds who are a bit too young, but who are the hot like 18, 17, 19-year-olds who are currently rated 63, but have had like a breakthrough season and now going to go up like 10 points. And so, I'm into football, but no, I'm not like into world football. But someone like Miles Skelly Lewis, or Lewis Skelly, Miles Lewis Skelly from Arsenal, he's ranked in the game. I can't remember, 74 or something. But he's had like a breakthrough season. He's 17 years old, and he's just been like amazing, and scored a brilliant goal at the weekend against Manchester City. So he's clearly gonna, his ranking's going to go up a lot. And if you think about that throughout, this game, because it's like an MMO, it's not wiped. So if you think about over the next 3 years, someone who's like 17 in Brazil, or I don't know, China or something at the moment, they're going to be worth a lot of money. So there is that sort of trading element. And obviously the other thing is there'll be some teams who go from like the very low divisions in their country to the top divisions and win. Maybe they'll win the league. Maybe I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example. maybe Radcliffe, a little sort of town down the road from us, who are currently in Division 9 or something in England. They're going to get to the top division and they'll win. And so if you had influence in that club,
the other a couple of years back, actually, it shows how old I am.
Yeah. So there's those sort of trading elements as well. I mean, but the nice thing about it, it's all fully on chain, so you can see what's going on. And because it has a slow pace, so you can't really game the system. You can't really come in. Even if you came in, you can inject money into clubs. So you could come into Radcliffe and inject a load of money, like 10 grand or something. That club will then win the sort of probably win the league because you're able to bring good players in. But even then, it takes 6 months to get to the next one. And every time you go up, you're sort of going up to a higher level. So you can't just come in and sort of game the system. So it's got some quite nice sort of checks and balances. Again, with all these economic, blockchain type games, we'll sort of see how that plays out because there's always tensions. But they've come up with, through design and a little bit of luck, I think, quite a nicely balanced system. And their in-game currency can't really... I won't go into the technicalities of it, but it can't really be taken out. You can't just take it out, and it's not on exchanges. So it's quite a, as much as these things can be, quite a well-balanced system in terms of sort of price and value and how the economic market, inflation, deflation, and how utility, how players actually spending money in the game to get game functionality plays into the whole thing. So we'll see. It's only been, the game, we've only played five football games. It's only been live for like 3 weeks in terms of the season. So the first season ends in July, but it's really. I played the betas for years, but now it's gone live. I knew I would really be into it more when it went live, and it's been interesting how this community, fairly small still, but it's really sort of building up, and people are tweeting out they've transferred this and blah blah blah. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, no, it's a really good game. But the main reason actually I wanted to bring it up is because exactly for that, what you were talking about there about the token and how the way the tokenomics has basically been designed so that it's quite resistant to this sort of massive extraction, and it's a bit protected, to sort of speculation in that sense that the slowness of it's hard to come in and just completely drain the resources and basically kill the game, like we've seen happen over and over and over again, and which is one of the reasons people are so disillusioned at the moment with the industry and why developers are sort of run out of energy really trying to, once they've launched a token and they see it go down, that's basically it for their games, and they have no control whatsoever over that anymore. Once sort of you've given that game element into the hands of speculation, so that's what Soccerverse, like you say, maybe a little bit of luck, but more, really clever design, has managed to find a nice balance. Whether it works or not sort of remains to be seen. But this is exactly what Gabe Layden and Limit Break have been trying to get to for years, and why you've sort of come around to think that is sort of the sustainable model going forward. So just to sort of get back a little bit to that, but with Apptokens and your cap and talk.
So as you say, when Apptokens first came out, I was a bit dismissive, particularly about. So basically, Apptokens is a standard called so. Limit Break, this US company, this guy Gabe Layden, sort of legendary sort of game designer, they did a similar thing for NFT. So it's called ERC 721C, and the important thing about that is that for the first time meant you could creators could enforce their royalty percentages on NFT trading for the first time. That was a big problem for NFTs. That basically the people who created these collections weren't getting any money, even if they were trading for millions of dollars. And even if they'd set 5% of every trade as their sort of royalty, it couldn't be enforced on chain. So, Limit Break have spent a long time doing that. And for NFTs, it sort of worked. But even when that came out, there was stuff like he said, "Oh, you can set, maximum and minimum prices for NFTs." And I was like, "Well, that's not really what we do in blockchain world. We let the speculation go up, we let it come down, blah 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 blah." But these are tools, so it's not that you have to do that. It's just like if you wanted to, you could set a price sort of limit for your NFTs. And then they've done a similar thing for ERC20 tokens, so the ERC20C protocol for tokens is now live. And my again sort of knee-jerk reaction to me was, oh, we can set like upper and lower boundaries for a token. Well, that's not what we do in blockchain. We let these things rip up and we let them come down again. And there's clearly a whole bunch of other stuff. There's some really interesting things where you can do where you can create tokens that are just sort of used for marketing. So they're sort of you use them for sort of user acquisition, and people can only spend them in the game. They're not like free floating tokens that can be on exchanges. And other ideas where you can have a token that is sort of you can trade it outside the game, but only as you level up in the game. So maybe when you get to level 10, you can sell 10% of your tokens. Now, I don't know how that works. I'm not a coder, but this is what, having read the documentation, that's what they say. And I guess it's a little bit about going against your sort of assumptions, long-held assumptions about what Web3 gaming should be, and being a slightly laissez-faire, free market sort of person. That's always sort of been my view. But obviously, what we've seen really in the last sort of month, 2 months, maybe a little bit, is Bitcoin's done really well. It's still off 10% off its all-time high. The Trump trade, all that sort of stuff. Bitcoin's done really well, and maybe that's the reason. But everything else has got absolutely hammered, and game tokens have really absolutely hammered. I mean, there's just nothing's done really well at all. Maybe one or two really, but of the big game tokens, nothing's done well. And some of these are quite, some of these I think are quite good sort of projects. And I wouldn't say they're at the level there where they can't be resurrected. But clearly there's and really this is an ongoing trend in games from early 2024, when everything sort of popped up, and then it was a quarter upon quarter of downward trajectory. And then a couple of weeks ago, I was just looking, and it just came to me, I don't know why, but we only had, depending on how you count them, we only had like a few gaming tokens in the top 100 crypto. So there's Immutable, Sand, Gala, and depends if you count some of the other ones, Flocky and stuff like that. But there's a small amount. It used to be a lot. It used to be 13 or something. And it's gradually dwindled away. And I've hadn't really twigged on me. And I suddenly thought there might not be any by the end of the year. Immutable, is I think it's 70 now or something. So it wasn't just the price had dropped; it was the gaming had dropped in relation to everything else. And that made me sort of think, why is that the case? And maybe it's a bit about memes and narrative, and meme coins done really well, and Bitcoin's done really well, and AI agents were doing well for a time. But games just don't. They don't have that meme thing at the moment. There's not one game you can point to and go, wow, yeah, games are really killing it, like there was with Axie Infinity. Pixels is down 80% from its all-time high. Still, I think a really good project. But again, the Pixel token is absolutely hammered. I mean, it's down 90% within less than a year, and that's I would say one of the more credible teams out there on Ronin, the blockchain that's supposedly the gaming blockchain that everyone's playing. So clearly, there's a short-term sort of anti-bubble, whatever the term is going on here, but it did wake me up to a few. I changed some of my priors, I guess, as they say, and now I wouldn't. And I now see some of the control that something like Apptokens can give a developer would actually be really useful in the early stages of a game where it doesn't have many users. You don't have 100 million people playing your game. You don't even have 1 million, maybe, probably for most games. And to have some guardrails in there that just stop speculators coming in, because just even like Immutable token is like, I don't know, $1.5 billion of market cap, but most of them are much smaller than that. And just speculators can come in overnight with hundreds of millions of dollars of tokens and pump your token up, and the game economy just for all these games just has to get to a certain scale before it can resist sort of speculative inputs. And even then, obviously crypto is a $3.5 trillion market cap, or even stripping out Bitcoin, it's like a $1 trillion market cap. So I've become, what's the thing? Is it a liberal mug by reality is a neoconservative?
Liberal, John. You are very much, you've been married to me for too long.
And again, it's not that I'm saying every game should use it. And I think we're really looking to see what Limit Break do they've come up with these tools. They must have a strong idea how they're going to use them. So, as I say, I think we see some games coming to the same conclusion. So Soccerverse, as we've discussed, is sort of one that's, they would never class it in this sort of framing, but they've come up with some very similar things. But I think we want to see what Limit Break, because they're just they're such an experienced mobile games team, been so successful in games, very focused on the business model and how that and profitability and how that works. So I think we need a few use cases and I think once you see that, then it could be a very quick. If they do a good job, it could be a very quick. Every game developer's using it, So, and I think we'll sort of we'll see what the reaction to the degens will be. I think the degens have done very well, basically, out of destroying game projects and they've made their the dingalings and whatever made a lot of money out of it. But
I think you should underline again the fact that it's not like an authoritarian government coming in and saying this is what you have to implement and this is what you have to use to be an actor in this sector. It's optional for developers. So there are elements, obviously, of centralization that the kind of the kind of proper DJs or whatever, they might not like it, but if it actually makes sure that we can get some great games out there that are playable and that people can actually enjoy and benefit from in the long term, then it's hard to see that it wouldn't be a good thing for the industry, obviously. Right, so good. That was long. On that note, we are going to finish off and we will see you all next week again. Bye-bye.
Bye.